everybody, and welcome back to the T.H.O. Movie Reviews podcast, the show where we bring you passionate, honest, and insightful film criticism. I'm your host, Bennett Campbell Ferguson, and we are here today to review Wonder Woman, and I'm joined by some of my wonderful colleagues, starting with Maxwell Meyers. Max, how you doing today?
Good, I'm here to bring the passion. Ladies.
I'll be bringing the passion, even though I'm not a lady.
And gentlemen. I don't discern. I don't care.
Wise words to live by. And also here we have Shaunette. Mo, how are you?
I'm here.
Yay!
That's the extent of it.
Sometimes that's all that matters today.
It is all that matters.
Much like Schrodinger's cat, I'm still here.
This is saying that half of film criticism is showing up. So, I mean,
it is. Half the battle.
50%. That's still enough.
Well, now all you gotta do is just march your way towards that D.
Well,
I am excited to be here. Yes.
Yes.
Cool. Me too. I'm excited to talk Wonder Woman. And speaking of which, Max, let's start with you.
Okay.
I know you just saw it.
Yes.
So it's fresh in your mind. What did you think?
I felt how I think women felt when they left Mad Max. I know this movie was not specifically geared towards my sex, but God, I felt pumped afterward. I was like, it was so good. I loved it. I mean, coming out of it, I think I was most excited that just the Warner Brothers finally gave me a good DC movie. My hopes were low. I'm not gonna lie. I mean,
why were your hopes low again?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe it's just a track record of two previous movies.
That took 2 minutes to get there.
I'm sorry. I mean, if you're gonna ask why,
Mo, DCEU timekeeper.
I think it's hard. I will admit, when I saw the Wonder Woman trailer, I got excited. And then I had to remind myself, Max, you got excited for the last two DCEU movie trailers.
They always have brilliant trailers.
They're so whoever has editing whoever has editing the trailers should probably be editing the movie. Or maybe that's the problem if they get the same guy and he really should only be doing trailers.
That's kind of what happened with Suicide Squad. So
yeah, so I'm like, that's why I'm like, well, at least with Suicide Squad I was like, yeah, I'm a little suspicious, and I was like, I knew it, and we're so I went into this, I was like, alright, the reviews have been good, but still, let's just hope for the best, and they nailed it. I mean, it was basically, Captain America, the first Avenger, but, Wonder Woman and World War I, but it was still good, and I'm okay with that.
I agree. I loved it, yeah, and I'll talk more about this later, but nailed it is absolutely the word for it. I think this is a brilliant movie. But Mo, you saw this a while ago. You saw it the day before it opened.
Yeah, June 1st.
What you've had some time to mull it over. Are you still as high on it as when you first saw it? Have you had new thoughts?
I wasn't completely high on it the first time. It's a good movie. I thought it was good. But it wasn't as revelatory to me as it seems to be for a lot of people. And I'm okay with that. That's fine. If this is eye-opening, mind-blowing kind of thing for you, good on you. I'm glad. It's a good movie. It's worth that. For me, it wasn't that. I think part of it is the landscape of movies. There's so many origin stories for superheroes by now. I'm starting to get fatigued. I love this stuff. I eat, drink, and breathe superheroes. It's my bread and butter. It's my jam. But it's starting to wear me out. Just the origin stories.
Oh.
So seeing them so many times and seeing them with the same beats of the hero's journey. It's starting to weary me. But Wonder Woman, there's enough flourish there. There's enough style. There's enough good stuff that I still liked it. I would still recommend it. I'm glad it exists. And I'm relieved more than anything, totally,
yeah. If this hadn't been good, it would have been upsetting for a lot of reasons.
Then they would have thrown in the towel. It'd be like, okay, no more girl superheroes for another decade.
Yeah. I mean, it's a sexist way of thinking, but they would have said that.
They would have that's what they followed for years, because Catwoman bombed and Elektra bombed, and it was like, okay, girl superheroes could be bombed. No.
Imagine if they said that after Hulk, you know?
Half thought of
Male superheroes don't work!
They made, like, another Hulk movie only 5 years later.
Oh,
well, and
yeah.
I mean, there's the one correspondent on the Daily Show. She made a whole
Michelle Wolf.
She made a point about. She goes, nobody ever, saw Batman vs Superman and was like, well, I guess we're done making man movies. And she goes, and someone's like, this is ridiculous and it's not fair. And I think I responded with, it's not fair, but it's where we're at, and it's like, we have this shitty hand we've been dealt, let's try and make it work. And so, as Mo said, there was a lot more writing on this than just the DCEU, and that's a sad story, but it's the story, and, so it was good that it was decent.
Yeah, it's a shitty hand, and it's, which is why I'm glad we've got Patty Jenkins to fight against that. But
that was the other thing. Like, people kept saying, like, you would read news articles of, like, oh, they're betting a lot on Patty Jenkins, who directed, like, an $8 million movie before this. And it's like, yeah, you could say the same thing about Rian Johnson, or Colin Trevorrow, or the Russo brothers.
Or Mark Webb.
Or, like, any of these, like, indie darling male directors who got tapped to do big superhero stuff. Taika Waititi would also be in there. I think Shane Black, maybe.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
Nobody really. I was
only like his, I don't know, second directed film.
Yeah. Well, and that wasn't even. I think that was his biggest film he had done. Until that.
Oh yeah, like the one before this was Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, right?
Yeah, and I think everybody. I mean, I don't know. I will say, whenever they announce the directors, and I'm like, oh, okay. Like I've never been like, that's not gonna work. And I was like, what are they thinking? I mean, I think the most head scratcher I got was Ant-Man's Peyton Reed. Only because, only because I was like, wait, the guy from Bring It On? I mean, we're on like a really strict timeline here. Okay.
But that also declares intent in some way. Like, for me, like Peyton Reed, it's like, okay, we're gonna stick to this as a comedy, and I'm like, okay, this guy knows how to do comedy.
Yeah. Well, I was just more like, we have less than a year to get this movie out. We just lost a director, and we're gonna start like doing some script stuff. And we just hired Peyton Reed, who I'd never, like, on top of everything else, I was like this is a lot of pressure, and I'm so glad it worked out.
For Ant-Man of all movies.
Yeah, and then Ant-Man, and I was like, we kind of need this. I was honestly like, is this going to be our first bad Marvel movie?
Well, going back to Patty Jenkins.
That was a tangent.
It was, I mean, Mo, I want to speak to what you said. I agree. This is not a perfect movie by any stretch of the imagination. I think there are parts that are, sluggish and, awkwardly paced. There's room for improvement. But then again, Christopher Nolan went through the same thing when he went from doing smaller films to doing Batman Begins, and it's hard to kind of transition from smaller stuff into that mainstream filmmaking. So I'll be really curious to see where she takes the sequel. But speaking overall, even though this isn't a perfect movie, this is the first comic book movie in years that I've truly loved. I mean, there's I love superheroes. I mean, I'm a unabashed nerd about this kind of stuff. I've got I've got Spider-Man comics and the plastic covers on my shelves. I'm that kind of guy. But I've gotten really jaded, and a lot of the best reviews superhero films are honestly films I don't think are that good. I think Logan is stunningly overrated personally, even a movie like that. But Wonder Woman, I thought it was beautiful, ultimately. I thought it was a moving story. I thought she was a complex character. I thought she was inspiring to watch, and let's address the big issue. It was refreshing to see this kind of story from the perspective of a woman, and that changes things. That changes the game, because as we see from when she'll say something like why do women have to keep their bellies in, Batman's not going to ask that question. I mean, and that's why I think bring on more Wonder Woman movies. Bring on Captain Marvel with Brie Larson, because these are superhero movies that have a reason to exist. Because there's uncharted territory.
Like after Wonder Woman came out, there were these articles of like, or Twitter polls or whatever, where it was like, so now that the Wonder Woman movie's out, what superheroine do you want to be in the next movie? And the answer was always all of them.
Yes,
Put all of them into movies.
I love that. I love
We
that.
have
I agree.
Ant-Man in a movie. Let's give some stuff to someone else. Let's give it to Batgirl or to Vixen or to all these other really great characters who deserve as much of a shot as Iron Man.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I mean, Iron Man, I always liked Tony Stark in the comics, but, let's call a spade. An Iron Man movie was kind of a long shot, because he's not Batman, he's not Superman, and if he can work, of course, Batgirl can work, of course Carol Danvers can work,
Yeah, I actually was reading an article. There's one. I read also Cinema Blend, and they were like, "Here's a guide of the superhero movies coming out." And they'll give you like page after page, a timeline of like superhero movies coming out for the next 4 years, and so there's like, "Here's your guide to the female action hero or superhero movies that are coming out." And it was Captain Marvel and a Batgirl, and that was the end of the article. And I was like, I feel like we could have said, "Hey, here's the guide to Batgirl and Captain Marvel." It would have been the same article, but I was like, okay. But no, I think this is good. I think and also on top of that, I think, again, we had not just the gender thing writing on this, but also, sadly, Wonder Woman writing on this.
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely.
if you just follow even the brief 15-year history of trying to get Wonder Woman off the ground into any format, TV or movie, it's been a fight the whole way.
Even Joss Whedon couldn't get it going.
Joss Whedon's like, "I'd like to do Wonder Woman." I'm like, no, it won't work.
Because he wanted to set it during World War II, and they weren't down for that.
I know.
And then Captain America becomes a huge thing, and then Thor becomes a huge thing, and then he does Avengers and makes $1 billion.
And they're like, oh, maybe that could have worked. So I mean, there was a lot riding on this movie. So the fact that I would give it like a solid B plus. I was like, I had such a great time, but there were some issues I had with it.
Yeah.
And I can see what you're saying about the origin story fatigue. Mm-hmm. But honestly, I think it was a fatigue that was necessary for this movie, only because it was like, you know what? DC's been trying to just play as much catch up with as little movie as possible. I was like, we just need you guys to make a good movie, even if it's an origin story, even if it has the same beat points as normal. I was like, you got you know what? At least then it's a good movie.
It is weird that the two best of the DC movies, Wonder Woman and Man of Steel, are the ones.
It's funny. Man of Steel is like
the best.
Yes.
Well, you got 5 movies.
But they're the ones that have the least tie-in to the overall DCEU.
Yeah.
Like Wonder Woman, it's just remember that this picture exists? Well, here's the story of that.
Yeah,
and that was
good.
And that brings me to one thing I loved about this movie. This is a self-contained movie, and the more self-contained things are, I think the higher the stakes are, because you feel like really immersed in this one story. You're not thinking about this other thing that's going to happen in this other movie, because that whole idea of Batman versus Superman.
Oh my God! I'm so sorry.
No worries. You're sitting there, knowing Superman's going to come back to life for Justice League, and that fact's distracting, you know. And the kind of
especially considering how Man of Steel is basically just he's like Jesus, isn't he?
Yeah,
isn't he?
Yes,
Do you get it, audience? Do you get it?
And Wonder Woman's the exact opposite. I mean, they're you're absolutely right. There's the origin story, there's those familiar beats, but in a way, it almost feels less predictable in some of those other movies, because it's it's not playing out to this corporate program necessarily. But moving on, I mean, this there are a number of scenes in this movie that I think are really interesting, really iconic and noteworthy already. And I can go first if you guys need a minute to think about it. But does either one of you have a scene you'd like to draw attention to?
It is always going to be No Man's Land, because that's the best part of the movie.
No argument there.
Just that action scene, it's just so good.
It is, yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm trying to come up with something deeper. No, it's a really well shot action scene.
When you say the No Man's Land, do you mean just the part from all the way up to the tower?
All the way up to the tower.
Okay,
all of that. It's just It's a great action scene. It's Gal Gadot sells it. Patty Jenkins directs the hell out of it. It's empowering and it
just feels
badass and it's.
I think it did exactly what it should do, which is it feels like a great action sequence that you don't go, oh man, it's a good thing they got a woman to do this because there's no man that could have shot this. I was like, no, like guess what? Doesn't matter. Like this was just a great action sequence, regardless of who was in it. Like could have been a man, it could have been directed by a man, but it didn't matter because it was good. It was just good.
I think it did matter though, because I think if it wasn't.
Well,
because it symbolizes like something greater. Like this is the first time on the big screen that in an exciting well constructed way we're seeing a woman superhero really emerge and enter a fray.
It didn't matter in the sense that you didn't watch it and go, oh well, good thing we got a woman. Like this this scene couldn't have worked unless it was directed by a woman or it had a woman. Because that's the whole argument that movie studios have been using for men is, oh, well, I mean, you can't have a woman do this. And so I think, in the sense that I'm like, it's a great scene without you having to play gender into the role.
Here's the thing, though. I agree it's a great scene regardless. I mean, it's a brilliantly structured scene. But I would argue that the whole movie could not have worked without a woman director. And I say that not because a man couldn't tell the story. There are tons of,
My favorite Wonder Woman writer is Greg Rucka.
See, there you go. Yeah, but here's the thing. If a man directed this movie, all we would be talking about is the male gaze. And,
that would be definitely a bigger part of it.
Yes, and especially when you've got, like, a woman who's, like, fighting crime, half-dressed, you cannot have a man behind the camera because, then, you're always going to have that in the back of... your mind, is that why,
It's the point. The point of the whole thing is not to sell. She's a beautiful woman doing awesome things. It's just she is doing awesome things. She is deflecting bullets with a bracelet. She is blocking machine gun fire with a shield.
This is just pure good filmmaking craft.
Yeah,
that scene.
I remember watching that and I was like, God, this is a great action scene.
Yeah,
I was so excited by that.
Yeah, it's probably my favorite.
I mean, people were cheering in the theater when that scene was going on. We were like,
and you don't see that a lot these days. It's exciting when people are really engaged.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I mean, it's a brilliant scene. It's some, but I think Patty Jenkins really has an eye for like kind of the iconic, awe-inspiring moment. Like the moment when she puts on the tiara thing or whatever it's called, which was awesome. And the moment when she's like standing atop the tower, like looking down at people, like for me, like there was a sense of wonderment. Wonderment. Thank you. There was a sense of wonderment in Wonder Woman that I honestly hadn't felt since seeing Spider-Man swing through between the skyscrapers of New York in those first 3 films because. Since then, so much has been done. It's, we've seen all there is to see. We've seen the talking raccoon, for Christ's sake. It's hard to surprise us and, kind of, put us into that place where we go, wow. And for me, this movie got me to wow. But do you have a favorite scene, Max, or would you go with No Man's Land as well?
Yeah.
I mean, I think dialogue-wise, I really like, I love all, like, the gender humor. Like,
That's great, yeah.
When she first sees Chris Pine naked, that was really funny. Like,
that was great.
There were some bits there that were kind of funny, and then I also...
That one worried me, because I thought that would go into really, like, cheesy, skeezy territory.
I don't know. I was, to be honest, if they had objectified him...
the line.
If they had objectified him a little bit, I think that would have been a little more funny.
They objectified him enough.
I know. It was, like, just enough. But I was like, man, wouldn't it be great if we just, like, turned the tables real quick? Like, but I was like, no.
Right.
But also the part where they're, like, lying in the boat, and he's explaining, like, she's like, well, you could lay down next to me. And it was like, well, it's inappropriate. It's like, I don't care. Like, and then talking about the books.
That's another one of my favorite things, is that he says that he keeps saying that he can't bring her along because she's distracting.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's on you, buddy.
Yeah.
That's on you for not being able to control your boner, man.
Right.
Well, and then like the fact that she walks into a room full of men, and the first question was, "Why is a woman in here?" Like she actually is distracting. Like I don't know. I think just the gender humor was good, and I was like, that was fun. But yeah, I mean, as far as what to see, yeah, I mean, you really can't top that whole sequence from, I gotta do something. I'm like, and then she does something.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And then, I don't know, I think also, and then that whole sequence, the way that plays out, and then the fact that later, are we talking spoilers here?
Yeah, this is a spoiler.
Yeah. This is spoilery?
Yeah.
It's a spoilery.
I recorded a non-spoilers review because I was so excited.
Good. But I mean, and then I mean, I don't love, but then later that village gets gassed.
Yeah.
And
I like that. I like that there was a cost.
Well, and then the fact that it's just like, and what was that for? And not in the sense of, sense of when I normally say that with DC movies was, what was the point? Like, I was like, oh shit.
It made it feel like her actions were all for nothing.
Which is what she keeps talking about. I mean, the whole idea of like the cost of war and like I don't know. The dialogue in it was really good. I really liked I think there was some stuff, it was like, as you said, it gets a little clunky, but overall it worked, and so I liked that aspect of it.
Yeah, I think so
But
too.
yeah, as far as visually, you're not going to get a scene as good as that from like point A to point B.
And you bring up such a great point about, that village getting wiped out, because I feel like, it's hard to create like a real sense of risk and loss in an action movie, because I mean, especially one where there's going to be more, but
especially a prequel that also is based around a historical event.
Exactly, yeah. But they did that in that moment, and they really, I think it really tested her. It really tested her optimism, and I think that's great.
It's testing her resolve and belief in mankind.
Yeah.
Because it's the these people are they're being plagued by Ares. It's not their fault. But then this happens to these people who she loves them, that she's had a wonderful night with, that she risked her life to save them, and they get wiped out by people who weren't even in the same place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just because they could. I mean, as far as I could tell, that wasn't like a revenge thing. I mean, they didn't go, look, they just took back our village. Guess what? We're just gonna I think
it was a tactical move.
I feel like he was just like, hey guys, look at what we got. This gas. This is what we're talking about. Like, let's just bomb this village. Like, which also I think is so much more menacing than I'm gonna do. Like, you take my village, fine. I'm gonna gas them. It was just more like, whatever.
Yeah.
I just did it because I can and I'm evil. Yeah.
It's kind of moving to bring in like an outside character too, who can look at that and like question these things. Like she was the right contrast with Chris Pine is saying it's war, it sucks, and to have her really get enraged by the injustice.
Well, I like that her idea, like, I want to save everyone. Like we need to be doing, like they really build it up, I think, like, she's like, why are they whipping those horses? Because they need to move faster. They're like, well, they're stuck. I could help them. I mean, the woman could lift a tank. She could probably pick up both horses in one hand and the cart in the other and carry them out of the mud. So, and they're like, no, we don't have time. We got to keep moving. We got to get you to where you need to be, which leads up to No Man's Land. The discussion between her and the Native American character, which could have great Native American character.
Honestly, that was my favorite part of the movie.
That was.
It could have, and they could have done something wrong with the Native American character.
With all the characters.
Yeah, but it worked, and I like that. A Scottish character, that was fun. But as she's
a Scotsman myself, I can appreciate that.
Well, I like that she's like, well, why are you fighting if you have no stake in this war? It's like, because the last war I fought in wiped out nearly all my people. What war was that? The one that his people fought in. And then look, she's like that moment, because she's like, oh, we all have issues with each other, yet we're somehow working with each other. these like the morality questions that start early after leaving Themyscira.
Yeah.
And
But it's the idea that there's, in the fight for good, there's a place for everyone. There's a place for an actor who can't get a job. There's a place for a sniper who would rather be singing. And there's a place for a smuggler who doesn't really have any place to call home. Like,
yeah.
you can all fight for good.
I love that morality. The morality questions that brings up to her for the the woman who's lived on Paradise Island without men and all these other things. Although I will say, I mean, I don't know if it's just because I see a lot of movies, I kind of felt like a lot of the twists, like who Ares is, and
it was pretty.
And the fact
also,
that
like the press releases gave it away.
Oh, I didn't.
Oh, really?
I didn't see any of the press releases. Like I literally I tried. Which is like for my past history is like let's watch the Wonder Woman trailer. All right, we're gonna wait for the reviews, and then we will see Wonder Woman. Although I'm not gonna lie, if the reviews had been bad, I still would have seen it. Just we need this movie to sell people.
Oh, absolutely.
And so, but I mean, like, and that one, and like the fact that the sword doesn't work, and that she's the god killer. I was like,
that I have issues with, but we'll get back to it.
Yeah, but I was like, oh. Like, I kind of, like, called a lot of those, like, so there were some people in the audience who were like, what? And I was like, called it.
But that's the power of the movie, is that you can get this wrapped up in the emotion of the story.
Yeah.
That you kind of put the logic aside. Right. It's like, I don't care about overthinking this. I just want to see this awesome stuff happening.
It was awesome. Yeah. Oh, my gosh.
It kind of reminded me of how I, felt like watching the first Abrams Star Trek, which, if you look at the basics of that story, it is so formulaic and by the book. I mean, it's basically just Star Wars, but
it's assembling Star Wars.
Yeah.
It's the meta narrative of like we need to build Star Wars to get to this point, or Star Trek. We need to build Star Trek to get to this point of being Star Trek.
But the execution and the emotion wrapped me up in it so well that I bought into it. But continuing on with Wonder Woman, I mean, and this is we touched on this, and it's kind of an odd thing to discuss since it's just three guys sitting here. But I mean, let's talk about the fact that it is Wonder Woman. I mean, it's and what
I don't know if the government could talk about female birth control without a single woman in the room. I think we three men can talk about Wonder Woman.
Fair enough.
Get political up in here.
But I mean, what do you guys think that Diana as a woman brings in terms of her perspective to this story that's different? What do you think, Mo?
They get it right. I'm saying this as someone who again, Greg Rucka is my favorite Wonder Woman writer. He's got a story that's basically retelling the origin in a modern context, and it's really good. Go read it. Nicola Scott does the artwork, and she is fucking dynamite. But it's Wonder Woman's idealism matching with the realities of war and of the patriarch's world, for lack of a better term.
Sounds familiar.
And in some cases, there's stuff that's like she needs to learn. She needs to move past her, try to balance it with the realism, with like, this is just the way things are and you can't change them. Sometimes people are terrible and they're gonna give in to their darker impulses and they're gonna be violent and they're gonna kill. And that's something you can't do anything about. Just save the people you can. It's not as easy as killing Ares, because there's still an entire war machine that you can't shut down single-handedly. But at the same time, there's the stuff that you can change, and there's the moment of her walking into the war room, for lack of a better term, and people being like, what is she doing here?
Yeah.
She doesn't realize that in this world she's supposed to be subservient, and she does not follow along with that.
Yeah.
Right.
So, I guess that answers the question. I forgot what the question was.
Well, I mean, no, but I think you answered it, and I think you mentioned the war room thing, and her not being subservient. I think there's something really powerful about a woman walking into this world, and not bowing down, just because it's not even a question of that it's not even an option for her to be subservient. Because for her it's like she's been liberated all her life. That's the way it is. That's just common sense that she should have the freedom to do what she wants. And I think it's kind of powerful to hear a woman say those things like it's common sense, like saying secretary, that sounds like slavery. I mean it's and she just says that like it's a universal truth. She doesn't say it like in like she says it like it's obvious.
She's not trying to make a point exactly. She's just commenting.
Yeah,
that doesn't make as much sense.
And that's a commentary in and of itself, because because she points out well, it should be obvious.
There's this is something. I don't think it actually came up in the comic, but this is something Greg Rucka mentioned, was the notion that someone would call out Diana for wearing the armor that shows so much skin, like call her out for like dressing skimpy or whatever, and that would never occur to her because she comes from a society that does not look at people that way.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I don't know. I think it all balances on. It's like you get the Themyscira where it's like women do everything. There's not a man. Like there's no reason that you can't. It's not like you go, oh man, if only we had a man around to do this one thing. Like no, it's like they've just grown and lived their life going, this needs to get done. Let's do it.
They're fine. They can fight in slow motion.
Yeah, they can do. Well, I mean, they can do all these different things, and so to her, it doesn't occur. And that's, I think, it's the question. I think they really tried to bring that commentary in, because that's a question. That's a conversation that's been going on. I mean, for a while now. But I mean, I feel like really now we got a lot of liberated women, to sound like a right wing nut job. But there's a lot of women that are going, I can do this too, and so it's. I think it's really great that we finally have not only like, I mean, this could have just been an action movie with a woman, but it does bring up those questions. It's just like, I can do this. I can speak I can speak every language.
Yeah.
I can do this.
You can't have Wonder Woman without feminism.
Yeah, and
that was rooted into the character from the very start.
Exactly, and so I think that's so good, and I think I like that we're bringing up this, like, oh, I can do that. Like, I can go into the war room. This is what's right. This is what's wrong. And it has nothing to do with, my genitalia. And I think that's a question, or a conversation that's been happening a lot lately. And I think it's nice to see that reflected in the movie as well.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
And then I think there's one going around. It goes, this picture. It's a picture of Robin Wright from Princess Bride. Mm-hmm. And then a picture of Carrie Fisher as Princess Leia, and then a picture of Robin Wright next to her character from Wonder Woman, and Princess Leia from the last Star Wars movie. And it goes, I've grown up to see my princesses become generals. And that's it. That's
pretty darn great.
We have Wonder Woman, who is, I mean, this could be some girl's first superhero movie.
Yeah.
It's excellent. Yeah. It's so, and it's why, again, I hate that this movie had to be as important that it is, but it was very important, and I think...
Yeah. I'm glad it succeeded being as important as it is.
Exactly.
I am glad it is. It sucks that it had to be this important.
Exactly.
But I'm glad it's important.
Well,
yeah.
That's
the compromise.
It's it's so frustrating that it has to be important on so many aspects. The fact that Wonder Woman won't work. A female action-led movie won't work.
A female-directed action movie won't work.
Oh, yeah, just all those things. The fact that it's like we have all these things like that Wonder Woman is literally going up against, and there are things that won't work, quote-unquote.
Right.
And I think it does, and that's exactly what we needed.
Honestly, it's a movie where the story of its success and how it was made is almost as good as the movie itself.
That could be its own movie.
Yeah, and
there is a movie coming out about the genesis of the Wonder Woman character.
I saw that. Yeah,
it's about William Moulton Marston and his wife and their girlfriend, and how they all came together to create Wonder Woman.
I like the sound of that.
That sounds excellent.
Yeah, go look up stuff about William Moulton Marston, because he was an interesting fellow, to say the least.
I'm scared by that description.
I don't know
bad,
too much,
but,
but
like,
I think I know what you're talking about. From what
But there's a
I do
movie
know.
coming out about
yeah,
this?
he led an interesting life, and
Is it a documentary or a biopic?
It's a biopic.
That sounds
He's
awesome.
dead now.
Okay.
But the short version, like, the reason Wonder Woman has a lasso of truth is that he invented the polygraph test.
Which, by the way, I will say, I love that they utilized the lasso of truth
Absolutely.
fairly well.
They did it really
I mean,
well.
don't get me wrong.
And, like, that's her primary weapon, not the sword. That's
Yeah.
what I'm
Yeah.
happy
And
about.
That's super cool.
I mean, it's sad, but I'm like, lasso of truth. I mean, but they use it so often and so well in the movie. I was like, oh man, look at that lasso of truth.
yeah.
Which is
I'm still waiting on the invisible jet.
Yeah, I'm very excited for that.
But, like, William Moulton Marston, his ideology was sort of that with modernity and the progression of technology, we would reach a point where women were no longer required to be housewives, or at least not required to put in as much work into being housewives, and thus they could become professionals, they could go out into the world, and he thought they would take it over, essentially. And he was totally down with that. He was looking forward to that happening. And Wonder Woman was his idealized version of the Martian Woman. Steve Trevor was the idealized version of the Martian Man because he was okay being saved by Wonder Woman. He didn't see it as damaging to his ego. It was just like, she's the most capable person for the job. I'm going to work with her to help her get the job done.
Yeah.
That came across pretty well in the movie.
Oh, yeah.
Too, I would say.
They did that really well.
And I like that Steve Trevor, the one time he says, no, you can't do this, was in regards to, you don't know how to be a spy or blend in. Which,
Yeah.
and it was not like you
That's
stand
true.
out because of your looks. It was just like, you don't understand social norms, which is why I'm gonna go do
Also,
this.
you are the spirit of truth. You're not a very good liar.
Yeah. So I think that was, I liked that part.
Also, you're going to try and kill a
Absolutely,
German general in the middle of a party.
I'm still surprised that she had a sword in her dress in the back, and no one's like, it looks like the handle to a sword. That's an interesting gesture.
I think they were more just like shocked, like, wait, what? Is this for real?
Look at how beautiful she is. I didn't even notice that sword in her dress.
Well, talking of that point in the movie, which brings us to the end, it seems like one of the more controversial parts of the film is, and by controversial, I shouldn't say controversial.
Criticized.
Criticized, yeah.
Okay.
Criticized. People always say controversial when
It's
things
not that big.
or like they say controversial for something that's really just kind of hated. But
Okay.
I don't know if this is hated, but
Malign.
now I'm going on a
Well,
ridiculous tangent. But
what are we talking about?
what I'm talking about is that there seems to be some criticism about the final battle and how they handle Ares at the end. And I was wondering, do you guys fall one way or the other on that?
I think that could have been done better. It's.
In which way?
I didn't think Ares was a well done character. I think they just kind of split the focus on villains, and that was to their detriment. Ares, I think they picked the wrong actor. I really like David Thewlis. I think he's a great actor. He's on the third season of Fargo right now. He is terrifying on that show.
Professor Lupin too.
And Professor Lupin, but I'm talking about V.M. Varga. I'm talking about like the most toxic, malicious person ever. Just like this fantastic con artist. Like on Fargo, his entire thing is he doesn't make he makes you believe lies by making you doubt what is real, and that he is the only real thing in the world. And he plays that well. He does a con artist really well. He does this like sinister machinations really well. He doesn't put forth this sort of godly power, I would say. It came off as fake whenever he kind of tried to. Like, for me, the funniest part of the movie is seeing, like, flashbacks to young Ares where they digitize, like, abs onto him. Like, that's clearly some male model's body with David Thewlis' head. That was hilarious to me.
I don't know. I feel like it was kind of what was going to happen. Like, I think you either play it one way, which is, this is the bad guy. This is Red Skull. this is what he's doing, this is like whatever, like you know who it is, or you try and set up a movie where you're like, oh, I think like this is the bad guy, and psych, it's not the bad guy, which means that who the actual bad guy is has to live up to that. And I was like, it was fine. The fight scene was cool to watch them just.
It was so, I think...
Again, I said this recently, and I don't know, I might catch some shit for this. I think I was watching, I can't even remember what, I think maybe Colombiana or something. I was watching some...
Oh, the Zoe Saldana movie.
Yeah, I was watching some movie with an female action lead, and I was like, you know what? Oh no, it was, I think it was, strangely enough, Iron Fist. I was watching Iron Fist, and I was like, you know what? I'm like, I remember a time where there wasn't a lot of like females in movies doing action, and when they did, it's like, we're gonna fight someone. It was generally like some other token evil woman.
Yeah.
It was like,
oh sure,
I'm the woman over here, she's the woman over there. Of course, we're gonna fight, and maybe the fight got a little interesting, but not so bad. Or then it's like, all right, now we got like Black Widow in Iron Man 2. She's gonna take out all these armed guards, and they're not gonna hit her once. I'm like, you know what? But now we're getting to a point where this, like, we can have some side character woman, which is Colleen Woo, fighting. Go up against not only a female sword fighter, but she's also going to take out the other guys. And guess what? They're going to punch her in the face. There's no qualms about her being a woman, so we can't hit her. It's like, guess what? She's going to punch some dudes in the face. She's going to punch some girls in the face. And guess what? Some men and some women are going to punch her in the face. And I was you know what? Good job. We've hit a point of feminism where it doesn't matter what your gender is, you can be hit in the face by anyone. And so when Gal Gadot gets like punched in the face and flies across the screen by Ares, I was like, at this point we've hit a point where we're not like, oh, I hope she's okay. Other than the fact that like she's the hero and not like, oh, she's a woman, I hope she's not broken now. It's like, like she can.
I see what you mean.
She can go up against any man, any woman. She can do anything, and also she can get hit.
Yeah.
There was like a point where like, oh, don't let the woman get hit. That would be hard to watch. And it's like now maybe it's just a desensitization. I'm desensitized to it now, or we are as a humans. But I was like, good job. We're women. We can do everything, including get punched in the face by a man.
And then get back up.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think the other thing about the fight scene is it's too much CGI for me.
It's a lot of CGI.
It looked really fakey. Like I'm kind of glad we reached the point where it was like David Thewlis puts on all the armor and looks like comic book Ares. One, because he looks like comic book Ares. I'm down for that.
Yeah.
But also, just it didn't look like there was awkwardly David Thewlis floating in air. It's like we can put a stuntman here, we can hang him up with wires, and then we can like have them fight each other.
Yeah.
Sure.
But yeah, that was it. Also, again, the No Man's Land sequence was so good. It makes the climactic final fight feel kind of perfunctory.
Sure. Well, it's an interesting thing, and I think following up something like that No Man's Land sequence. I mean, that's a tall order, not only for this movie but for the sequel. But I gotta say, I loved the finale. I wouldn't have changed a thing because, and I'll tell you why. For one thing, I liked that Ares really tempted her, and he really tested her optimism by saying, well, I didn't, make people do this. I whispered ideas in their ears, but they're the ones who take their ideas and wreak so much havoc.
No, I think that's great. I think that's perfect. I think that's a perfect example is that no one is evil. You're just handed things, and what you do with those tools kind of speaks to like your conscience or heart. Like, give a person a gun, they might go, oh, I don't want that. Or give another person a gun, they're like, I'm gonna hunt. Give another person a gun, they're like, I'm gonna kill someone. Yeah. And I'm gonna use this to hold all the power. Like, and that's just who exists in the world.
Absolutely. And it gave, Diana a chance to, when confronted with this test, I think, really say, I get it. Mm-hmm. I was wrong. I, maybe had too much faith in humanity, but I still believe, and I'm still gonna destroy you anyway. And I thought that turned out to be a pretty powerful thing. And I actually liked David Thewlis. He was, for me, that like kind of like I really just like know him as Professor Lupin, and the kind of like warmth he brought to that role, and to kind of see that voice that I associate with the personification of good, like, in the figure of this evil being, like, it was really kind of eerie, and I thought he made a brief but memorable impression.
It's David Tennant in Jessica Jones again.
Yeah. It's, I think also you don't see it coming, which is the point. Like, you see David Thewlis and you're like, oh, it's Professor Lupin. Oh no, he's Ares. Oh,
and he's got a fun, fluffy little mustache.
Oh man.
It's sort of like Matt Damon in Interstellar.
Yeah.
It's like, yay!
Oh no! Why are you evil?
I'm gonna go on a little thing about the God Killer thing.
Oh yeah, please do.
In the film, you think that the God Killer is this magic sword that can kill Ares. Turns out, no, that Diana herself is the God Killer, that she is the daughter of Zeus, and because she's a demigod, she can therefore kill Ares. I get why this was done. I get why it's appealing as a plot twist, as a narrative device, as a way to tell a more interesting story. I still don't like it. And there's a reason. This calls back to Brian Azzarello's run on Wonder Woman, which was started from the New 52, where it did turn out that she was the daughter of Zeus and of Hippolyta, and it worked for that story specifically. Because that story was basically Game of Thrones with Greek mythology. It was Zeus has vacated heaven for whatever reason, and now every god wants to take the throne, and all the children of Zeus want it, and Hera, who thinks it's hers by right, is starting to systematically take out all of Zeus's other kids, including Wonder Woman, including going after her. And for that story it worked. The problem is, Wonder Woman's original origin story, that she was carved from clay, is so weird and so out there, but so perfect for the character. It's that kind of comic book weirdness that you get from the Golden Age that I love, that I kind of want to see more of in modern stories, but also this idea that it leads towards this, like, feminist ideology, this modern woman ideal, that she was created without a man. That she is cut whole cloth from femininity and from women exclusively. And that's part of her power. And that's more interesting to me. That I think it works better for the character, it's stronger, and it doesn't mean that we're going to get a sequel movie where it's just her confronting her daddy issues with Zeus, which I really hope they don't go in for, but I'm giving Patty Jenkins more credit than that because I think she's smarter than that.
Well, just to go off of this for a sec, I can't speak to this much because I don't know much about Wonder Woman mythos, but does the fact that she's the God Killer mean that she's not made from clay? Because I didn't necessarily get that from the movie, because I got the sense that they never said she was really. I don't think they said she was the daughter of Zeus. I just assumed that, when she was made from clay, Zeus gave her the power.
She says that she says to Ares, "Goodbye, brother."
But I thought that meant in terms of that because she was brought to life by Zeus, she's sort of like spiritually his daughter. Not in a literal sense.
They didn't go into these details.
Nobody's ever really once ever discussed, I think, how the Greek gods managed to make babies with humans. It's just like, oh, Zeus had sex with a woman and then she had a baby, and Hercules, like that's just like how that always seems to be, or whatever. And nobody ever did the Greek Kama Sutra Gods edition, so.
And but to speak to this, I mean, if that is true, and she really is in this movie continuity, literally Zeus's daughter, if that's the true, I agree with you. I didn't think about this way, but that would be disappointing, because I honestly hadn't even considered this. But the point you make about the made from clay thing, I think is really. I think it's like a big issue.
I think with Patty Jenkins, at least if I were running the show, I would run it not as a pivotal part of her identity, so that she doesn't have to again, as more
centerpiece.
Exactly, as more of just like how she seems to run everything else in her life. Just as I guess my father was Zeus.
Yeah. The other thing is, it's
any other questions.
And this ties into kind of the broader reaction to Brian Azzarello's Wonder Woman is they degraded Paradise Island. So some of the stuff that comes across is that because Wonder Woman was created from clay, that she's kind of an outsider, that she doesn't really fit in on Paradise Island, or that's like, and this is something that's been ignored entirely for the best, is the notion that the Amazons aren't immortal. And what they would do is essentially find sailors out onto sea, have sex with them to get pregnant, kill them, then of the children that were born, the males would be traded to Hephaestus to get weapons for the island, and the females would be kept and raised as Amazons.
You're right, that does sound like Game of Thrones.
That was erased from continuity, and Greg Rucka did that with very specific intent, and that was...
I can see why.
And that was because, as he put it, and I'm paraphrasing, because I don't remember his exact words, but when you degrade Paradise Island, you degrade Wonder Woman. Because Wonder Woman has to give up Paradise Island to be with us. She leaves heaven to live on Earth. And that sacrifice doesn't mean anything if Paradise Island is so shitty.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So I'm not a fan of of the God Killer angle, and I hope they don't play into it too much. There is a lingering question of where Zeus has been all this time.
Is he dead?
He's the last one alive.
Well, okay. That was the thing is, I said he gave up his power to defeat Ares. I just assumed he gave up his power and his existence to bring Diana to life. That's at least the assumption I was making.
So he's Rose Quartz in this
basically
situation.
Well, then he's like, I'm going to give up everything because I think I did what I had to do. I think Ares is dead. I can't really be sure. But the best thing I can do is...
if he comes back...
create a weapon. Yeah, I hope he doesn't, because I'm just like,
If they do something interesting with them, I wouldn't be opposed, but I don't want a movie of Diana having daddy issues, because that undercuts everything about her character.
Exactly.
Yeah. I don't really want any superhero movie ever again.
We've had enough daddy issues.
We have had enough daddy issues, yeah. It's done.
Leave that job for the men.
Yeah, we'll leave that job. What was the last daddy issues in space movie?
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yes. We've had it, we did that recently. In Guardians. We did that in Mass Effect 2. We've had enough of that.
I mean, hell, you can even argue that Chris Pine's character in Star Trek is wrapped up in daddy issues.
Daddy issues in space.
No question. Well, talking of movies with daddy issues, I don't want to spend too much time on this because we have to wrap up soon. But,
yes.
Could we just, just for the hell of it and because it would be fun, could we take a minute to just kind of savor how good this movie is and, how it really makes the other DCEU films look even shabbier than they already did, which is
you could have had this the whole time.
Yes!
If you just did, took Zack Snyder's hands off the steering wheel.
It
hurts to think about it.
I'm gonna ease up on Zack Snyder now because of stuff.
Yeah.
I remember how you were like, I'm tired of the origin stories. They're fatiguing, and you're over here going, this feels good because I don't have to focus on setting up the DCEU. I mean, you could argue, it's fatiguing and it kind of sucks, but you know what? If you take an origin story, you take all these characters, you're like, oh, I know this character, their backstory, I know everything about them. Then when you put them together, you don't have to explain where they've been, how they've got their powers, why we have these issues. And that's why Avengers worked, is because, sadly, the only character that you really had any questions on was Black Widow and Hawkeye, which... they kind of mishandle Hawkeye a little bit.
Yeah, but Black Widow's just, by being there.
Yeah.
And you knew enough about her just to be she's a spy.
Exactly.
And
so,
she's gonna do spy stuff.
You're going to go, I don't want to set up the time. I'm tired of origin movies, but you know what? They clearly have a place when you want to set up something greater, because then it's
sure.
Because now we're going to have to spend most of Justice League going, so who's Poseidon? How does that happen? Flash, what's that about? There's Cyborg. We have 3 whole new characters that are supposed to make up this part of the team that are big characters. They're not just
to their credits. They've already established them as existing. So
it's true.
I doubt we're gonna spend too much time on their origin.
I'm just worried that it will somehow make it messier.
Yeah,
because at least then you can throw Wonder Woman in and just have her be Wonder Woman, kick some ass, and you're not going to be like, What's with that glowing lasso?
Yeah, I see. I see where you're coming from. Yeah.
What's she been up to? Like, we know, huh?
But I think Wonder Woman really tries something novel that hasn't yet been tried in the DCEU. Tell a good story.
What?
I mean, it's as simple as it sounds. It's true. I mean,
have faith in your characters.
Yeah.
Have a certain amount of levity and optimism about things.
And actually take the trouble to create a character instead of having Henry Cavill just stare balefully and speak in a monotone. I mean, and also this is a tangent, but people who think Ben Affleck is the best on-screen Batman. You're crazy.
No, he's definitely not
you're
the
crazy.
worst.
Maybe
he's a great
Val Kilmer, and George Clooney.
Their movies were bad, but
Val Kilmer.
I mean, Val Kilmer had fun at least.
Even George Clooney said, he goes, I feel bad. He goes, I feel like I really just showed up for the paycheck. He goes, I didn't ask questions. The character. He goes, knowing just what I know now. He goes, I would not have done it the same way. And he goes, but now.
Are you saying he didn't show up for the bat nipples?
No, apparently. Well, then he said, he goes, I would never do it again. He goes, only because I feel like I have I've created such ill will with the character. He goes, I'll never touch it. He goes, I'll admit, I was not the right person for that, and I didn't do a good job.
I think you might make a good Batman in a better movie.
Maybe, but I don't. Yeah, and so, anyways.
Well, I think that's all well said, and much deserved criticism of the DCEU until this point. But let's
also just real quick while we're talking about Batman, we gotta give it up for our boy Adam West.
Yes,
yeah.
Oh,
we've lost our first Batman. It was weird.
I know.
He was. Let me.
He got the character. It was a different interpretation of the character.
But it was a great interpretation.
It was rooted in funny, goofy stuff. But it's he dresses like a bat. Obviously, you gotta make a joke about that.
And he was maybe the only Batman to say two of my favorite superhero lines ever. One, what is a dream but a blueprint for courageous action? And then my other favorite one of his, you filthy criminals. He was inspired.
Some days you just can't get rid of them all.
Yes, yeah. That is a monument. That's all there is to it.
I mean, well, you gotta love the fact that he didn't really do much else after that other than be Adam West. And there are some.
That was the result of really bad typecasting.
Yeah, but I mean the fact that I'm like, you know what? I was like, you know what? We could. I'm like, you could be a superhero, and then I think Michael Keaton has worked really hard to not be just Batman.
Yeah,
and I think
he was a comedian first.
Yeah, and I think some people.
And now he's a vulture.
I think
now he's a Birdman and a vulture.
I think you could. I think in Hollywood, sadly, sometimes you end up with the same role over and over again, and it's not fun and it's not fair.
Yeah,
and that's all for a lot of different reasons, and it could be you, it could be the studios, it could be all these different things. But Adam West never once said, I was Batman, but I really don't want you to look at me as just Batman. He goes,
I think there was a time that he
eventually goes, you know what, I was Batman, and he goes, and I look at what it's done, and look at who it's inspired. He goes, for better or worse, he goes, I am Adam West, and people like who I am, and I think that's another great aspect, and which allowed him to be Mayor Adam West in Family Guy, which I know is not the Adam West that everyone wants to remember, but that's the one I remember, only for the fact that I get to have him calls him up because he's looking for his light bright pieces for the sign on his desk to go, I'm missing some light bright pieces. Where are they? I'm not Adam Wee. Who's Adam Wee? Am I Adam Wee? Don't call here ever again. Get out of here. Hangs up the phone. Nobody messes with Adam Wee. It takes so much. It takes so much of yourself to go, let's make fun of me a little bit.
Sure.
He's definitely not Mayor Adam West, but man, he could play Mayor Adam West any day of the week, and he got some ridiculous lines to say, and he sold every single one of them.
There were few things in this world more fun than simply being Adam West.
Yes. And he had fun being Adam West, and I think that should speak to just anyone outside the movie industry and just real life.
Oh, yes.
Like,
Yeah.
sometimes you
gotta
are
be
who
able
you
to
are.
That was the message of Captain Underpants, which we saw, was that you have to be able to laugh at yourself.
You have to be live. Well, like, we're all known for our things and you can fight against them, but also sometimes it's just fun to lean into them and just be you and just love it. And so, Captain Underpants also is still not the worst movie I've seen this year, which I think is... a movie called Captain Underpants, you feel like it should have been a bad movie. Like, no, it's good. We're having a fantastic year for films.
We are.
We are way off track from Wonder Woman.
Sorry,
I do have to. I want to get back to Wonder Woman, but two more things to say about Adam West.
Yeah.
One of the. It's a sad loss. He's one of the funniest guys ever, and watching that Batman movie he did just makes me happy. It's simple. I love it. And the other thing is. A young British American watched named Christopher Nolan used to watch the Batman TV show when he was young enough not to realize it was a joke.
So, it was so campy.
So without Adam West, maybe we wouldn't have gotten the Dark Knight trilogy.
We definitely wouldn't have gotten the Dark Knight trilogy. Like back in the 60s, Batman was just going to be swept aside like a bunch of other Golden Age characters because they weren't selling really well. And then, not only does this show revitalize Batman comics, it also really establishes the mythos. It's also like, okay, here are the core villains. It's not just the Joker, but we also got the Riddler because Frank Gorshin did such a good job. We also got the Penguin because of Burgess Meredith. We also got Catwoman. We got these core group of people who are now the iconic Batman villains because of the show. We also have a new version of Batgirl, who is the Commissioner's daughter. Barbara Gordon was created whole cloth for the show.
I think,
and arguably the scariest Joker of all time in Cesar Romero.
He's up there.
I don't know. I mean, I think you could also argue the fact that
he was a better Joker than Jared Leto, but that's not a high bar.
the fact that this show succeeded as well as it has gives the argument of, well, of course superhero movies can work, or of course superheroes can be good. Look at Batman. It's lasted for how long?
Of
for
course,
better or worse.
Superhero movies for kids can work.
I think that's but that's going to always be the argument is, well, look at the life of Batman. Look at how long it's lasted. I mean,
50 years.
I mean, whether or not you like Batfleck, the fact that Batman the TV series and Adam West as Batman succeeding is why we will always go, well, I mean, Batman works.
Yeah.
I mean, look at how long it's worked.
Trace the DNA back to that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, Adam West will be missed.
Hear, hear. Well, to
get back to Wonder Woman.
To get back to Wonder Woman.
Off topic.
Yes.
It was
I'm
fun.
Sorry about that.
No, we found
I was
glad we addressed it.
About Adam West. To conclude, I want to read a quote.
Well, I bet you're holding a newspaper.
I know, I am holding a newspaper.
Here, maybe we could shuffle some paper sounds to make sure we know that it's actually here. Oh my God, it's a newspaper!
It's alive!
That one sound effect cost us $500, but it was worth every penny.
Oh yeah, we'll fix it in post. This is a quote from Patty Jenkins, and I think it explains a lot of reasons why the movie works. Cheesy is one of the words banned in my world. I'm tired of sincerity being something we have to be afraid of doing. It's been like that for 20 years that the entertainment and art world has shied away from sincerity, real sincerity, because they feel they have to wink at the audience because that's what the kids like. We have to do real stories now. The world is in crisis. I wanted to tell a story about a hero who believes in love, who is filled with love, who believes in change and the betterment of mankind. I believe in it. It's terrible when it makes so many artists afraid to be sincere and truthful and emotional and relegates them to the too cool for school department. Art is supposed to bring beauty to the world. I agree with that. I think you feel that spirit in the movie, and I think sincerity is why we're going to be talking about this movie for quite a while longer, among other reasons.
Yes.
All right. Well, I think that wraps it up for now. Thanks to all of you for joining us. If you like this podcast, and why wouldn't you, please click thumbs up and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Don't forget to like us on Facebook And I'm going to get this right this time, Mo. Check out all the great content we have at THOmoviereviews.wordpress.com.
Yes.
Yes. All right.
Correct.
And once again, I'm your host, Bennett Campbell Ferguson, here with Maxwell, Meyers, and Mo Shaunette. And from all of us here at THO, happy movie watching.
Au revoir. I don't know why I went French.